Good evening, and welcome to the Ombudsman program. My name is Diane Welborn. I am the Ombudsman, and I'm going to be your host for this evening's exciting program. Tonight, I am very pleased to bring to our viewers a conversation about Dayton's National Conference of Community and Justice of Greater Dayton. And I'm very thrilled to have with me two guests that are going to tell us all about their activities, their history, and the interesting things that are going on with this wonderful organization in our community. I'd like to begin first by introducing Adriane Miller. She is the executive director of the National Conference of Community and Justice of Greater Dayton. Welcome, and thank you so much for coming on the program this evening.
Thanks for having me, Diane.
Great, my pleasure. And then I'd also like to introduce Audrey Thompson, who is the program manager, Audrey Logan, excuse me, Audrey, the program manager for the workforce development for the organization. So thank you, Adriane. Thank you for coming on this evening, Audrey. I really appreciate your giving us the time and coming to tell all of our viewers about the many activities that you all are involved in. But before we jump into that, I would like to give each of you a little bit more time to introduce yourself to our viewers through this DATV program. So please let us know how you came to be with such an interesting organization. Adriane, please.
All right, thanks. Thank you, Diane. We are excited to be here and share with you about NCCJ. So as you have said, my name is Adriane Miller. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm the executive director over there at NCCJ of Greater Dayton. My background is in social work. I was a school-based therapist for many years throughout Clark and Montgomery counties. And I learned about NCCJ while involved at the last school I was at, which was Longfellow, one of the Dayton public schools. What I realized is that as much as I loved what I did as a social worker, getting to be involved in social justice just really fed my passion. And it was something that I didn't realize I was doing for a really long time, advocating for others and trying to create inclusive spaces and building equity were things that I was doing. But at the time, I didn't even know what those words really were. I just knew it was something that I had to do. So when I learned about NCCJ, when I say it was something I had to do, well, it was something I had to do because it aligned with who I am, with my values as a human. So learning about this organization just really, I connected with it, and I have a passion for the work and the mission, which I'll tell you about in a little bit, and everything that we get to do. We have so much fun at work every day, having deep discussions and growing and learning all the time as a team when we're going out and meeting people in the public and just learning different things. So I look forward to sharing all about it with you.
Well, thank you so much for that, Adriane. I really think there is a fine line between social work and social justice work. So I'm glad to see that how much you have taken that up and to see you where you are now. Now, Audrey Logan, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, please?
Yes, thank you. And thank you for having me, Diane. I am Audrey Logan. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I joined NCCJ this January. I had a soft start in December. So I thought that was great that the organization decided, hey, let's start you out in a few different meetings, events, and everything like that in December before you come on full time with everyone. So I got an opportunity to meet everyone, attend some board meetings, attend some other sessions that were going on with NCCJ, which really solidified, yep, I'm at the right place. So I like the fact that I had a soft start, but I officially started in December. So I am the program manager for workplace development. And what that means is I am part of a team, me and Adriane, we go out and pretty much do training sessions, as we'll talk about and get into a little bit more. And we work together very closely. And like she said, it's just bouncing back and forth off of each other, and we just complement each other. I love working here because it's different, yet it's familiar. So we have another connection that we didn't know we had until I got to NCCJ. I too worked for Dayton Public Schools. I taught in the classrooms for 6 years, and then I subbed around, and then I ended up, my last position, I was in community outreach with the district, and then some reorganization and downsizing came, and that's when my time at DPS did end. But at the same time, I can say and concur with what Adriane said about, I really believe I was doing some DEI work in the classroom when I said everybody is inclusive. We share this earth, we share this world, we're sharing things, and we need to make everything, I said equal. So I didn't know about equity then. I said equal for everyone. So it's interesting that as my career furthers, I get into this work. I also met Mary Tyler, who was the previous executive director while I was at DPS. So I had some interest by things that she was telling me as well. So a little bit about me and a little bit of why I am here and what I'm doing at this moment with NCCJ.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate that fuller introduction. So thank you for sharing that. I'd like to ask each of you, beginning with Adriane, please, to talk a little bit about the NCCJ. I know something about it, not what you all know. I know that it's been around for a number of years, but just in case any of our viewers are not familiar, I'd like you to give them an overview of the mission and the purpose of the organization, and then we will come back and go through more of the details about what you all are doing right here in the Dayton community. So Adriane, I'll hand it to you if that's okay for a few minutes.
Absolutely. Sorry, my cat always likes to join me for Zoom meetings. So thank you, Diane. So NCCJ, the National Conference for Community and Justice, we are of Greater Dayton, and our name's a little confusing because we are no longer national. But I want to jump back when we were. The National Conference for Christians and Jews started in the late 1920s and was a national organization throughout the country, addressed religious conflict and tried to bring people together. In the 1980s, they changed the name from Christians and Jews to the National Conference for Community and Justice. And we have been in Dayton since 1978. In the early 2000s, the national organization disbanded, so we are now an independent nonprofit 501c3. Our mission is to help build a community dedicated to eliminating bias, bigotry, and all forms of discrimination. I see Audrey nodding and smiling. It is a mission that we are passionate about. Love trying to address that mission and helping to create those strong leaders to help that to happen, because we are a small organization and we can't do it alone. So we need to educate others to have those ripples keep happening and to help bring about change.
Oh, thank you so much for that overview. Audrey, is there something that you would like to add?
No, I think Adriane did a great job. I think to do this work, you have to be passionate about making some changes. And so when I say making those changes, I mean getting involved in things that will allow us to help make some changes. I think we are living in a society now that people do want to see change. Sometimes they don't know where to start. So even when they reach out to us, we are a place that some organizations have a start with. This is their start of getting to move forward in the DEI work that we're doing. So I didn't really want to add anything, just that little bit right there.
Okay, well, that's very welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much. In thinking about your organization and tonight's conversation, I wanted to talk to you more about your process. And I know you have a board of directors and others that would be involved in this, but your process to really assess our community as far as our levels of of bigotry, of bias, and of discrimination. Now, those are picking on the negative. There's a lot of the positive too. But how do you all then look at our situation in the greater Dayton area and look at what type of interventions you think are important given what you find that we are here?
It's a great question, and I gave me a lot to think about, because the reality is we haven't done any sort of formal assessment. Pretty much everything we have is informal and is qualitative information for the most part that we receive from participants of our programs. So we do work very closely. We have an amazing board, and we work very closely with them. We meet every month, and I even have several board members that I meet with in between just to process and try to stay on the top of everything that is going on. We also get information. We are constantly evaluating our youth programs and getting information from them and our youth. It is amazing. So I first was involved with NCCJ about 10 years ago. And with those 10 years, I have seen our youth, their knowledge base expand. They used to come to us to learn, and now they're coming to us already knowing so much. We're teaching them some certain skills and leadership, but they have this wealth of knowledge that kids didn't have before. So we learn a lot about what's going on from the participants in both our youth programs as well as in our workplace programs. We learn from participants. And then we learn from our community partners, for what's going on. As I mentioned, these are discussions we're constantly having. So even just the other day, one of my coworkers was sharing something with me about a House bill that was going on and educating me on some areas, because it's constantly evolving there. And as a small organization, it's nice when we can grow and learn together.
Thank you. Very, very helpful to hear that. And I find that with all of the news that we have and with all of the the problems that we do have emerging that and existing, that it's quite a challenge. And I think the activities that you all are engaged in are probably needed as much now as in some other times of high conflict in our country.
Absolutely.
And we know we've had many of those. So, but particularly now, whether you want to look on the political front, or whether you want to look on the interpersonal front, or the front of violence, it's all around us. And so we're glad to know that you're there. What types of improvements have you seen with your involvement and your leadership of this agency that you'd like to highlight for us tonight?
Well, I'm looking at my notes. The first thing I wrote is, this is a challenging question, which is great. I love being challenged. I love having to think outside the box and do different things, which I guess is something that as an organization we've had to do. When I started with NCCJ in this position, it was a little over 3 years ago. So I started in December of 19, and we all remember what happened in March of 20, right? Our world changed, right? And COVID came.
Right.
And at the time, I was the only full-time employee, and we had a part-time program manager working on the youth programs. So I remember saying, okay, well, we're going to just have to figure things out. We're not going to say no to anything. We're just going to have to be creative. And that's what we did. So some of the improvements we were able to do, and I don't know if improvements is the right word, is we became a prevention certified organization through Ohio Mental Health and Addiction Services, which was a great thing for our organization because our youth programs in particular, which we'll talk more about later, are all prevention. They're all helping kids, young adults build relationships, develop leadership, coping skills, self-care, self-esteem, all of these different developmental assets that they are able to create by being a part of our programs. So we were able to do that, which helped us to grow. But as far as some other things that we were able to do, I think one of the things going on right now is because of social media, people are much more aware of social issues that are going on. It used to be, I only know what somebody tells me because, I don't know, that's kind of how it was. But now we are aware of so much more. Things are being videotaped. Things are videotaped. Is that the right word?
Yeah. We understand.
Video recorded, yeah.
Recorded. People are recording things now on their phones. We didn't always have that option. And then, so people just are much more aware of what's going on. I think that has also resulted in more grassroots initiatives, people getting together to address problems. So one of the things that we at NCCJ have done is we were able to get funding through a racial equity grant through the Allstate Foundation to bring back something we used to do called a Teen Summit, where we bring together 200 or so youth students from around the Miami Valley, high school students, for a day of learning. So we have our next one coming up next week. And that one is helping people going from being a bystander to an upstander. What are actionable things that we can do to bring about change? So that's one of those things that we have been doing. And I think it's just a real good example of some change that's happening.
That's good. It sounds like a wonderful program. And I'm sure the youth are very interested to come to that. Audrey, let's talk about the workplace development program. So after you had your soft start, you did a lot of different things with NCCJ. You've kind of settled in on this one. So I'm very curious about how you offer the customized program to individuals that approach the NCCJ, and so why don't you tell us a little bit more about that, and then we have a couple of questions I want to get to that have come in while we've been talking.
Okay, sure. So with workplace development, what we try to do, or pretty much what we do, is customize programs to the need of the organization. So the organization will pretty much give us a call and let us know what they're interested in. Some of them have looked on our website to see the things that we've offered. Some of them, it's a cold call where they call us and say, well, what do you have? Or we're looking for this. Can you accommodate this? So we do try our best to accommodate the organizations that ask for our services. Do we have a menu or a list of programming that we offer? Yes, we do. And sometimes organizations do want what we have already, or they'll want a combination of a few things, and we look to customizing it based off of those things. Again, they can always say, well, we want what you have already, and we're going to pick this, and we want to go through that workshop. So we can do that as far as customizing. And again, we do offer things that are already, that we already do as well. So I hope that answers what you're looking for.
I think it does. If somebody who's watching this evening is going to pick up the phone tomorrow or the next day to call you about that, what are the kind of the steps that you would go through with them to ascertain what is the best tailored approach, if there is such a thing, to that particular entity?
First thing would be to ask them, what are they looking for? What do they want for their organization? Are they at the beginning steps? Have they started some things already in DEI? Or are they looking to take their DEI initiatives to even a further level, or a further moving forward, a further commitment, something in that order? After hearing what that is, we can move forward with if it needs to be a customized service or workshop that we need to put together, then we'll begin that. If it's something that's already available that we have on our menu list, then we'll go from there. But it all depends on what that client organization is looking for, is how we would move forward. But we'd be open to working with them to the best of their capacity and to what we have to offer them as well. So we're open. We're open. You want to add a little bit to that, Adriane?
I would like to. A few other things that we like to find out is, what happened that they're calling now? Is it something that happened within the organization, or is it something that happened within our country? After the murder of George Floyd, we did get a lot of different organizations reaching out saying, hey, we really need to do something, which is wonderful that they were realizing that they need to do something. So sometimes it's something within the organization, sometimes within the world. We also like to understand the demographics of the organization that is reaching out, as well as what time commitment they're able to put into it, so that we can best prepare a proposal for them. So those are a few other additional things we like to find out.
Yeah, that's important. I was wondering, what is the time? What is the usual time commitment for this type of engagement?
That definitely varies. We try hard to encourage people to not just do a one and done, because change doesn't happen when you do a one and done. Audrey's going to tell all of us in a little bit about our Diversity 101 series that we specifically made a 4-part series to keep that conversation going. We want to continue that. So we get calls for people wanting 2 hours, and we get calls for people wanting ongoing.
Oh, good. Well, that's good. Both of those are. One of our callers is curious about these issues in schools and how many of the issues of diversity and race and gender have become very politicized. And how does your organization fit within that to help reduce that? And I don't know if you even go into schools or not, but I certainly know you invite the youth to you and to the programs that you have. So however you want to answer, please do so.
Yes, I can do that. So yes, we do go into the schools. We go into quite a few schools. And for the most part, we are welcomed in. We're welcomed in all the time to schools and to the youth that are there. One of the things we do to help with reduce that polarization is we try to help bring people together. And we do this in all of our programming. We try to help people realize that we are more alike than we are different. And we have a lot of different activities that we can do to help with that. And I think when we're talking about this division, it a lot of times we're hearing about that critical race theory. And that is not something that we're teaching in the schools. We go in and we address leadership. We address ways to become more inclusive. We talk about, once again, like I said, how we can figure out how we're more alike than we are different. So I think that that's the biggest way. And then we're very open. We're willing to have these conversations with people. Diversity encompasses everybody and everything. I think a lot of times when we think diversity, we think black and white, but it is much more than that. And it involves different viewpoints, but we work really hard on helping people with respect. That's the important part, that we can respectfully disagree on things, so we want to work on those things.
That is a very important point, and not only just schools, but many adults have lost or forgotten that ability in our world today. Well, all of your education workshops, and you have quite a few, I'd like for you to highlight for our viewers about what participants would learn when they participate in one of these, because you're offering them, I understand, frequently and almost on demand to groups who want them. So let's take each of them, and Adriane and Audrey, I'll let you all divide this as you prefer. But let's talk about implicit bias for a few minutes. And what does that workshop help people to take away?
Okay, I'll go ahead and start. The first thing we do is create a safe place to have difficult conversations. So when you talk about implicit bias, we all have them. And a lot of times it's the unintentional part of us with those biases. We're not necessarily doing things intentionally. What we do is we have something that we start off all of our sessions with, and with workshops, all of our workshops, and we call it our personal agreement statement. This agreement helps create an environment of learning and also confidentiality in each of our workshops. We've created session objectives with each of our workshops, so participants will take away something different with each one. We like to utilize a diverse group of facilitators that are up and teaching in our workshops. We also like to make our workshops personable. Many of the facilitators do use examples from their own lives. So do me and Adriane. All of our workshops are interactive. We like people to be engaged, and we like dialogue, we like discussion, and we will have pretty much any type of discussion within the well, I'm not even going to say necessarily, because sometimes they do go a little out and around out of the box, and we kind of have to bring them back around to what we're talking about. We also like to use small breakout groups. So if we have a large group, that large group, we're talking about 30 people, we like to break that down into a smaller group. So then that way we'll get people even more engaged, because they're in a smaller group. It's even more personable, and it's also an opportunity to have that confidentiality kept right there in that small group. So we might break out in groups of 4 or 5 people, and that way people can have conversations. They can have those difficult conversations. One of the things we do in implicit bias is, again, it's part of our Diversity 101 series. So we begin with implicit biases. Implicit bias. We all have them. And sometimes we're not even realizing that we have these biases. And so in this workshop, we are educating the participants and letting them know, here are things that are biased, and these are things that you didn't do intentionally, but it is a part of who we are as human beings. We have these things. And so it causes, we're teaching them also to pay attention to their own, the things that instead of pointing out somebody else's, self-reflect on your own and your own biases, and be intentional about it. Make sure that you are aware of the things that you have going on, instead of looking at somebody else and saying somebody else has this or that. You're going to do your own self-check as well. Adriane, you want to add a little to that? I'm getting things out there, but I want to see if you want to share some things along with it too.
Sure. Implicit bias, as Audrey said, is the first part of our Diversity 101 series, and it's very foundational. It gives people a common language. So we talk about our implicit biases. Where do they come from? Where are we getting these messages? Because if you think about it, messages are being sent to us all the time, everywhere, about how we should think about somebody or something. So we talk about where they come from. We talk about what we can do then. How do we address our implicit biases? What can we do? And we talk a lot about intentionality. We can be intentional in addressing them. And then, as Audrey said, one thing that I think that we do really, really well, and I know I am completely biased when I speak highly of NCCJ, but we create safe places for really difficult conversations. That is something we do well because we're intentional. As Audrey said, we start off every one of our workshops with this personal agreement. We discuss it. We have somebody read it aloud every single time. So if we're doing 4 in a row, we will do this every single time to create that safe space, because sometimes this is the first time people are hearing about some of the topics that we're going to be talking about. Sometimes it may be the first time they have shared the thought in their head aloud to other people. So we really, really honor that and work hard to create that safe space for everyone to have these difficult conversations. And as I said, implicit bias is just the start.
Good. It sounds like an excellent and very good start. We do have a caller, but I just want to follow up first on, you mentioned your workshop leaders. Who are they? Not necessarily by name, but by where do they come from? Do you train them? Do they come to you from some other training program? Talk to us a little bit about who the leadership is in those workshops, please.
Right.
So go ahead.
So Audrey and I take on large leadership roles, but we also have some consultants that we work with. And it's kind of interesting that you're asking that, because we just went through training a new consultant who actually went through the Diversity 101 series with us about 2 years ago. And he had reached out and said, I love that series so much, I would like to become a facilitator for it. So it took a little while to get everything figured out, but he's in the process right now of going through his first series with both Audrey and I being there, but we're doing it together. So we always, like she mentioned, bring in 2 facilitators. And we have some other facilitators that are people that we have met throughout the community that have a passion for the work that we do, and want to look at getting involved in it. So we bring people in, we go through the series. We really like when they go through the whole series as a participant first. Then we do a more in-depth training, Audrey and I, with that individual. We give some assignments, or, we recommend they follow up and read different things.
Sure.
And then, as we're doing with this individual, the 3 of us will go for their first time going through it. And then in the future, so this individual will be training with Audrey in the future. So the 2 of them can go off and do it. But it is something we are frequently looking for additional consultants. So we would like to be growing our workplace program. So if someone's interested, they can reach out to myself or Audrey at NCCJ.
That's good to know. Our caller came in that on a slightly different topic, but we'll circle back to the leadership and ally and some of the other topics. Caller wants to know that people used to say that Dayton was one of the most segregated cities in the U.S. What would be your comment about that today, please?
Yes, it still is, unfortunately. Dayton is still one of the most segregated cities in the United States. We have the river and the highway that divide 2 parts of our city, and the resources in one side of the city are very different than the other.
Okay. Thank you very much.
But can I say something onto that?
Please.
Even though we might have that title, I will say that we have things in place that we are trying to move that. So the work that we do is like Adriane said, we're a small nonprofit, so we can't do all of it. So as we are educating people in the work that we're doing and to move forward and making these changes, I believe as time goes on, you'll see more people getting involved, and you'll see us not being so high on that list of the segregation chart, and we'll be becoming more of an inclusive city, and we'll start climbing the ladder that direction. So yes, this might be something that is stated about us, and it might even look very true right now. I believe, and I really believe this, that as many people get involved in this work, that we're not going to stay in that same place. So that's all I wanted to add to that.
Well, and
Thank you. Very hopeful comment.
can I add to her
Yes,
comment too?
please. Please.
That intentionality that I keep saying. I think there are many organizations and community leaders that are being intentional about trying to change that.
Yes.
So Learn to Earn received funding from Blue Meridian to invest in Northwest Dayton and created this whole Northwest Dayton partnership. The Hope Center, Omega's Hope Center, the Community Development Coalition from them is doing a lot to really invest in West Dayton. The city had provided ARPA funds specifically to help in Dayton and West Dayton. So there's a lot that's happening, a lot of great opportunities to create change and build up equity. And we have a great program I'll tell you about also in a little bit.
No, good,
Community
good.
programs.
Yes, we definitely want to get there. Okay, the next one that I saw on your website was that of inclusive leadership. Is this what would you all like to add about inclusive leadership opportunities?
So the first thing I want to say is when people look at this, they kind of assume based off of the title or the topic, inclusive leadership, that we're talking about the top leaders of an organization. That's not what this workshop is about. This workshop is about everyone being a leader, because everyone is a leader in some type of capacity. So we don't just zero in on the top executive team or anything like that. We are actually looking at it from not necessarily the bottom level, but everyone as being a leader and everyone having a part or playing a part in making a difference within the organization. One of the things we talk about in there is creating an inclusive and equitable work environment for everyone. There's another section in there that talks about 6 traits of an inclusive leader, and we've added one more, making it 7. And let me give you a few of them. Commitment, courage, cognizance of bias, curiosity, culturally intelligent, collaboration. And our last one that we recently added from another workshop we did, we had a president of a organization who said, well, you're forgetting one of the main ones. And we were like, what? Care. You gotta care. Being a leader is about caring about others, and it's that intentional part of it. So that's our inclusive leadership. We also talk about speaking up when you see an injustice and having a courageous conversation with others. It is a little difficult, but we want you to be bold. Some of the wording that we use in those workshops is be bold, speak up. You know, we talk about bystanders. Now we have a word that we're talking about upstanders. So we have had bystanders do things, but how about the upstanders? Let's just stand up and we all start helping out and making things change.
Thank you very much, Audrey. Appreciate that comment. And understanding privilege and the meaning of and the responsibility of being an ally. Which of you would like to start on that one, please?
I can start on that one as well.
Okay.
That workshop is talking about privilege. So we define the word privilege. In that workshop, we also talk about how people kind of look more at the oppression that they're dealing with versus the privileges that they actually have. There are also advantages that we have as well. There are invisible privileges that people don't realize that they have. In specific, a certain group of people have more privilege than other marginalized groups. We also, in this particular workshop, we get this information from Peggy McIntosh, who was a professor of women's studies at Wellesley Centers for Women. she wrote an article about white privilege unpacking the invisible knapsack. We even show a TED talk that she did that talks about how she came up with 46 different ways that she's had privilege, and how that group of people who have all of this privilege doesn't even realize it. And guess what? They were kind of born into it. They didn't ask for it. It's something that has happened and they're a part of it and they don't even realize it. However, the marginalized group of people can see it from a different aspect. But it's something where we're really, really wanting people with privilege to be intentional about seeing the things that they have versus other marginalized groups who don't have those same things. And then one of the things we do in this workshop as well too, we end this workshop introducing the participants on ways that they can be an active ally for injustice that they see, wherever it may be, whether it's in their organization or even in the community.
Okay, thank you very much for that. One of the callers came in and wanted to know if you all do any conversations or facilitate conversations between Christians, Christian churches and mosques.
You know, it's a great question. It's something that Audrey and I have been talking about wanting to do more of, getting back to the roots a little bit about NCCJ back when it was Christians and Jews. So we haven't yet, but we are definitely open to that and being a part of it.
Okay, wonderful to know. I don't want to skip over some other very important concepts. The words matter and building community, but I would like us to get to the part of how does one participate in one of these? Are they on your website? Are they how does one enroll in one or more? If it's a series of 4, how does one find this to come and to actually do it? What would you direct any viewers who want to follow up on tonight's conversation?
So there are two different options. One of them is if they work for an organization, their organization could call us and bring us in to do that, to do the training. The other one is Montgomery County Adamus has a training department, and quarterly they contract with us to facilitate these trainings. And for people living in Montgomery County, those are free of charge for them to attend. So we started one just last week that's in person, and it's once a week for 2 hours. And they could find that by looking at Montgomery County Adamus's training calendar. And as I mentioned, we're doing that quarterly for them.
Good. Thank you so much. Quarterly even. Okay, so you're running that series quite frequently. Another call has called in that is right with you here. He says he works, or she, I don't know, at a racist organization, and how can that person get help from myself and my coworkers?
You know, I think that's it's a great question. And it's such a challenge that we are experiencing in many different places. When our workshops, we talk about how many, when we're talking about systemic issues, many organizations were created in pushing some people down and pushing other people up. And it becomes so ingrained in the culture of the organization that people sometimes don't even realize what is going on. So bringing in trainers, bringing in facilitators, we call that Diversity 101 series purposefully so that we can have these conversations and welcome people in, because sometimes it's the first time they're having them. Sometimes our 101s are really like a 400 or 500 level, but we can also be a 100 depending on the needs of the group that we're in. So as far as trying to help an organization, I think it's important to find an ally within that organization who can help to be an advocate and help to bring about some change. And if you can't find an ally within the organization, then feel free to reach out to us at NCCJ, and we are more than willing to have a meeting and talk and brainstorm ways that we can help and support you.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm sure the caller appreciates that answer for them. Let's talk a little bit about your community advocacy and action programs. You've got, I noticed Pride Rocks is one. You're a part of the Prevention Coalition. It sounds like, organized the self-care committee. And what am I leaving out? Oh, violence, yes. And the role of your work within the larger community. So why don't you just choose any of those that I quickly mentioned to see which you might want to highlight in our time tonight together.
All right, I'm going to try to highlight a few of them
Good
really
for you.
quickly. Okay, so Pride Rocks is an event that we started last year, and it's happening again May 13th from 11 to 3 p.m. at the Levitt Pavilion. Pride Rocks is about raising awareness to the increased suicide rates in the LGBTQ plus community to help reduce stigma. So what we do that day is we have vendors that will be there providing information. We have musicians that are part of the LGBTQ plus community that will be performing. And then, and I should have brought one home with me, but I don't have one, we literally paint rocks. On the back of each rock is resources for suicide prevention. And then everybody gets to paint these rocks. So they could take a rock home with them, they can leave them, and we will make sure that they get dispersed. We do it in May because Pride Month is June. And then we give them out to community organizations or whomever may want them. So that's one of our events. Another one that I want to mention that I'm not sure you talked about is our Mobile Opportunity Center. This is something new, and we received funding from the Northwest Dayton Partnership through Learn to Earn for purchasing what we call a mobile classroom. So we have a shuttle bus that we purchased, and we take that bus into Northwest Dayton, and we do two different things. We as NCCJ provide prevention information. So we provide information about resources within the community. We distribute pill disposal bags. We do self-care activities with them, and we have self-care coloring books that came out of the Montgomery County Prevention Coalition self-care. And then we also provide pill disposal bags and gun locks. And then our bus is used for organizations to come out and promote different things. So they may be there doing trauma support and working with individuals. It could be self-care. It could be financial literacy. We're working with Right Pat Credit Union to come out and do some financial literacy. Five Rivers Metro Parks is going to be doing interviews on the bus at the end of the month. So the goal of this is to remove any barrier possible for services. So let's just bring the services directly to the people. So that's another one. And then you mentioned this Montgomery County Prevention Coalition, which is part of Montgomery County ADAMIS, the Alcohol, Drug, and Mental Health Services board here in Montgomery County. So the Montgomery County Prevention Coalition does a lot of different, they have a lot of different subgroups that addressing prevention. And at NCCJ, we have several of our staff that have taken on some larger roles in some of those programs because they align with our mission and the passions of our coworkers. That's
great. You all should know that you're receiving thanks from someone who attended the Levitt Pavilion Pride Rocks and is telling all the viewers, particularly the two of you all, the participants here, that they had a wonderful time. So that's very, very good to know. And thank you, caller, for calling in and doing that. Let's talk about your podcast, where you can tell I'm going faster because our time is clicking down. So we want to make sure to get everything in that you need to get and give you a moment for your summation or final comment. So what about the podcast?
So we have a podcast called Gem City Diversity. And we also have the ability to do it mobilely. So that is also part of what we're going to do at our Mobile Opportunity Center is do podcasts, raising the voice of people in the community. So sometimes it's about raising voices, because it's always about raising voices. But we have interviewed people from the deaf community. We have interviewed people talking about code switching. We have youth that have interviewed other people. So it's just an opportunity for people to get out and share some information. If anyone has a great story or is interested, once again, reach out to us at NCCJ and we would love to have you on it.
Wonderful. Let's talk a little bit about your teen programs, because I don't know, particularly like the, how do you be, agents of change, and how do you deal with aspects of change with a middle school uh, class group, and then of course there's always police and outreach to youth. But I'll just let you touch on which of those in the short time we have remaining you'd like to highlight tonight.
Right. I'm going to quickly lump a lot together.
Okay.
So we work with middle and high school kids, students, and all of what we're trying to teach them is how to be strong leaders. We give them skills on how to do that, practical skills. We help educate them, once again, as I mentioned earlier, about realizing that we're more alike than different. We bring people together from all different communities to get to know each other, because that's what happens. If we are only surrounded by people that look like us, think like us, eat like us, and pray like us, that's all we're going to ever know. So what we do is we try to bring people together. We try to give them simple things that they can do and support them in creating that change, because it's not easy to be that first person. We talk about the importance of being that first person, but we're there to help them to do that. And then just really quickly, last week we held our Police and Youth Together program, and we had 30 or so students, and I think about a dozen officers from some different jurisdictions, building relationships and getting to know each other. And that's just what we do with our youth programs.
Good. Then I'd like to, I've got two quick questions here at the end. If a person watching tonight is interested in volunteering with many of your activities, or a few or one, whatever they pick, should they just call your agency? What's your phone number?
They can call or they can go on our website. So our direct line is 937-222-6225. My
Very
extension
good.
is 102, or you can go to our website, which is www.nccjgreaterdayton.org. And there is a section where it says contact us, and they could fill out a form there, and it'll get to one of us, and we will definitely get back to you. We have lots of great upcoming opportunities to volunteer or to get involved, and we would love for people to reach out.
Wonderful. You've got each one of you has like 30 to 45 seconds now. Audrey, what would you like to comment on that I didn't have time to ask you, please?
That the work that we do is intentional, much needed, and we're passionate about working with any organization that wants to take that first step in DE&I work and making that change with their organization. Like that caller had said, what can they do to, make some changes? If they can't talk to someone that's in leadership in their organization, they can absolutely reach out to us, and we can have that difficult conversation with that organization and possibly put something together to go about moving forward and making some change. And we're going to do things differently moving forward. NCCJ, we're out here, we're ready. We might be small right now, but there is plans in the making for us to be a little larger as time goes on.
Well, we hope to see that success. Audrey, your turn.
Oh, Adriane. I'm
so sorry. Yes, apologize.
It's okay. It's hard because both our names start with an A. So really quickly, what I want to do is to challenge everybody to go out and get to know someone different than them. We have an amazing community that we are a part of, that this is getting to be the start of like beautiful weather and festivals. Go to festivals and try something, try new food, meet somebody from a different culture, build a relationship, have a conversation with someone. Maybe you'll even make a friend and realize that you have more in common. Reach out to us at our phone or on our website, the National Conference for Community and Justice of Greater Dayton. We need volunteers. We love having these conversations. We'll get together, have coffee. But we'd love for you to get involved, and we'd love to get to know everyone more and tell you more about ourselves. It's amazing how quick an hour goes by. But we really appreciate you bringing us on, Diane.
Yes, well, it has been completely my pleasure. Adriane and Audrey, I want to thank you both for your comments tonight and for the information you've provided to our viewers. And we wish you all the best of luck in your important work. So thank you very much for tonight.
Thank you
Take
for
care.
having us. Thank you so much.
Good night, viewers. Thank you.